Good evening, folks. This is Deb and Dave, and this is the Factivist report. Fact. Hear the words? Fact. So, just a couple of things here. We're going to talk about individual rights as they apply to living in the United States. And I just want to make one thing abundantly clear, because we are still having some conflict within the groups that we have. Number one, we are not out there trying to unite with the right. We actually did try that over a year, an entire year of uniting with the right. And it was singularly the biggest mistake we ever made as a group. Now, I'm sure our reach is much smaller now that we're not parroting the narrative. But our biggest issue with the right is they talk really great about protecting people's rights. But the right wing is in no way going to protect the rights of anybody who isn't white, wealthy, or not, but mostly white and wealthy. They don't really have much caring in their soul for poor white Republicans either. They don't want anyone who is gay to be protected by laws. They don't want transgender people to be protected by laws. They don't particularly respect women. And there is absolutely no way on God's green earth that I personally will ever unite with the right. And there's no way for this group to unite and fight for their rights when what they're going to use their rights for is to overturn the rights of other people in this country. By the way, don't let me forget people of color, immigrants, Hispanic people, and Asian people, because here in the grand and glorious state of Massachusetts, we have elected our first Asian American and a female Asian American to the mayor of Boston position. And Michelle Wu is now instituting in the state that if you want to go to a restaurant or a bar, you have to show either proof of vaccination or a test. And this poor woman has been getting death threats by phone. She has been been the subject of racial slurs all over the place, all because she's trying to protect the public health. Okay. No one should have to eat at a restaurant with people who have COVID-19. Okay. First of all, you're lucky you're in a restaurant at this point in this illness's stature here. But if you can't be responsible enough to stay the fuck home, then, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, this all goes back to your personal freedoms do not trump the public health or everybody else's freedoms to remain safe. So we're going to talk about that tonight as it applies to other things that have happened in our historical past. And for that, I'm going to turn that over to Dave.
So, hello, everyone. I hope everyone has had a happy new year. And now we're going to talk about your responsibility as a citizen. Aren't you glad you showed up? All right. So,
because guess what? You do have responsibilities as citizens. It is not just the government that is the problem here in this country.
Here's the deal. This has not started with COVID and vaccinations for COVID. We're going to talk about some of the history of the government and its role in protecting the health of the public. Also, the government is tasked with protecting the health of its citizenry, including the President of the United States, the director of the CDC and the NIH, yes, Fauci, and he's doing his job, and
another person who has received numerous death threats, him and his family.
and other representatives as well. So let's start this out. One of the things that we worked on a while ago, and we're going to get back to it, is we were making the universal human rights that were worked on by Eleanor Roosevelt and the United Nations. We were trying to make them a little easier to read and understand. The right to one's property, to own property, the right to have a job, the right to be involved in one's community, the right to live, and other things as well. We're going to continue to work on this. But the one thing that I have to say is that I want to read the second paragraph here. And I want people to understand that this is where we're coming from when we're talking about individual rights.
By the way, this is also, for me, one of the breaking points with some of the people on the right that we were working with. We couldn't get them to commit to this particular paragraph. When we were talking about, this country being total control by the people, which I would never advocate for that now after getting a load of the last 2 years. I'm sorry. We're just not ready for that right now. And we're just, it probably won't work here. 335 million people, none of whom can agree on anything. Direct democracy works on a small scale, in a community, in a city, in a state, maybe, but in the country, absolutely not. So this was a breaking point. Just picture this. We eliminate the government, and I'm sorry, but this country would be total chaos.
Yep.
And just picture the right wing accepting this second paragraph. It would never happen. So go ahead, Dave.
These are rights that apply to every citizen. They are not to be made a subject of any referenda or initiatives unless they are being expanded. So no anti-trans laws, no voting restriction laws, nothing of that nature. Right. Nobody shall use this process to deny rights for any individual or group of individuals, and neither will any referenda that adversely affects the rights of an individual or group of individuals be considered. So anything that infringes upon the rights of someone else, your rights do not trump the rights of someone else. So your right to speak and express yourself do not trump the rights of someone's safety. You don't get to yell fire in a crowded room, or yell, vaccinations don't work, or when they don't.
How about posting this, as someone has charmingly done to me?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not going to put the page in because I don't want to attract attention to it.
Right.
But there are some people, I don't know if it's one person or several people from the right trolling me everywhere. And they have put up a page, and I'm not going to say, what it says, with my name on it and my picture. I have no idea where they got this stuff. I do have a suspicion. And they put up the article from Reuters. And the article says, gunman kills 4 in Denver area shooting spree before he is killed by police. And the post accompanying this article is, Deb, if only one of those bullets hit you instead. That is not your free speech fucking right, okay? How's that? And I am at the point where I'm ready to hire a computer forensics person to find out who's doing this. And once I do that, I will maybe move legally. I haven't decided yet.
Right. Well, and not for nothing, number 9. No one shall be subjected to arbitrary interference or attack upon his or her privacy, family, home, correspondence, or honor or reputation. There are, smears against Deb that I'm not going to go into. And by the way, we didn't make these up. We kind of reworded them a little bit, but they already existed. So this is on the Become Ungovernable page. What I will say is that this is a living document, and we are working on it. There are parts of this that are heavy into direct democracy, which we would change a little bit, change somewhat. I believe that one of these said something of, everyone can represent themselves. We're not going to be led by a political leader, etc.
That's not the case. We don't consider that legitimate anymore.
No,
that's simply not going to work here. It isn't, because the bottom line is eventually all of these people would turn into politicians, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to come out of the woodwork and want to be the leader. And yep. I'm not convinced that 335 individuals can make that work. Sorry about that, folks. But if you're asking me if I have faith in the American people, I guess my answer is no, after what I've seen over the last 2 years with COVID. So no.
So one prevailing theme of people talking about their individual rights is, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. I should have the right to do this. Why are you telling me I can't do this and I have to do that? That's, an overriding theme of this whole thing.
And by the way, here's the other thing, and I'm going to be chiming in a lot here, and I'm sorry about that.
No, I know.
But here's another thing. Okay, so you don't want to get a vaccine. Okay, fine. But here's the problem. The same people who don't want to get vaccines don't want to put a mask on if they don't get a vaccine. And they also don't want to socially distance if they don't get a vaccine. And guess what? You don't get to avoid all of those things and act like none of this is going on. There are 850,000 people dead in America from this. There are over 5 million dead worldwide. Grow the fuck up.
Now, this is an opinion piece from just some guest commentator on the Summit Daily. This is a Colorado paper. This is opinion. Kim McGahee, residents must call foul on this grave injustice.
And by the way, this is an oxymoron. Conservative common sense. No such animal.
Right. So this is what the grave injustice is. Fear and loathing are once again the local spotlight and making unconstitutional restraints on our First Amendment freedoms. Vail Resorts has implemented a baseless and draconian vaccine mandate at cafeteria-style indoor dining facilities on its mountains, and the liberal Democrats on the Summit Board of County Commissioners are requesting statewide mask and vaccine mandates from their Democratic pal, Governor Jared Polis, and I didn't see anything from Lauren Boebert on this. So how long will Summit County residents tolerate this inoculation manipulation? Now, this is very recent, December 6th, 2021. So here's the bottom line on this. This is a very good opinion piece from the Los Angeles Times. Erwin Chemerinsky, April 20th, 2020. Now, this was a while back, but this is when we were still in the whole COVID situation. Yes, government can restrict your liberties to protect public health. This has been going on forever. And by the way, there is precedence. Well, how recent? Goes back to a case called Jacobson versus Massachusetts, 1905. So
just say this. We had in this country requirements during the smallpox epidemic.
This is, yep, it's what it is.
Right.
Smallpox.
And one of them was vaccine mandates.
Yep.
You know, once smallpox was brought under control, all of this stuff got rolled back. Nobody wants to do this permanently. Although, quite frankly, all of this to do over vaccines in children, you know, required for school. I'm sorry, but I have a 25-year-old and a 20-year-old. And for grades preschool through 12, senior and high school, every fucking year, my children had to have proof of an examination and proof of inoculation. What's the big fucking deal? I'm sorry. You know what? I just don't understand the fucking nonsense. I certainly don't feel as though I was being oppressed or that my children were. I actually think they were being protected. That's the way I look at school nurses. They've got a job to do. The state has a job to do to ensure that people aren't spreading shit. Because guess what? If you have we had a situation where we had an entire problem with Stoneham schools with norovirus. You know, all these kids get sick. There is no school. People need to understand this shit. This is basic logic.
So I did what you did, Deb. I looked at the right side of the screen.
Uh-huh.
Does it really matter if our kids refuse to pick up a book? Yes, it does.
Yes, it fucking does. Yeah, it does. Considering the fact that 54% of this country cannot read above sixth grade level. We talk about the United States like it's so wonderful and so far advanced over other nations. 54% of the people in this country can't read above sixth grade level, and they don't understand fucking science, and they don't want to understand science.
By the way, this was a Supreme Court case that was decided in terms of vaccine mandates.
And by the way, the Supreme Court has just recently refused to hear the mask mandate case. All right. They don't want to touch it. They got other things to think about, like overturning your right to choose.
Throughout American history, quarantine orders have been upheld as valid exercises of police power possessed by state and local governments. This is for the public health.
Right.
Not long after the Revolutionary War, Philadelphia imposed a quarantine to stop the spread of yellow fever. 1799, Congress by statute recognized the power of states to impose quarantines. In 1926, the Supreme Court ruled that a state in the exercise of its police powers may establish quarantines against human beings or animals or plants. Don't ask me about plant quarantines. I have no idea.
Well, that's if they're bringing plants in from other nations that may have
right.
You know,
okay,
right.
They might have to store them.
Right.
I don't know. So, if you remember, for those of you who have been with us, we talked about this whole thing because there was a whole to-do about, we're talking about vaccine mandates and blah, blah, blah. In 2016, a federal district court in Jersey upheld a quarantine order for a nurse who had returned from Africa after treating Ebola patients. And if anyone knows about Ebola, that's extremely dangerous and deadly.
You know, think about that in the general population with the morons we have running around in this country right now.
Right.
Everybody would be bleeding from the eyes.
Right. So when I was looking, I was looking for a way to explain where people are and also explain why we are not advocating for direct democracy anymore. So we start here. This is a general public opinion poll, which is basically saying that that many of the people in the United States are dissatisfied with the way the government is being run, a big part of it is economic. They don't feel that they are economically where they should be, and they're blaming the government. Well, if you follow some of the guidelines, people always ask, hey, what can we do to be a better citizen? I don't know, maybe drive with your seatbelt on, adhere to smoking laws, adhere to mask mandates, just follow general rules and just be considerate. So this right here, let's see. For many people, democracy is not delivering. People like democracy, but their commitment to it is often not very strong. Political and social divisions are amplifying the challenges of contemporary democracy, and people want a stronger public voice in politics and policy making.
So let me just say something about direct democracy, okay?
Yeah.
Even in countries that actually employ or use direct democracy, Switzerland, for example, they still have a parliament. The difference is that the citizens get to vote on certain pieces of legislation directly rather than go through the parliament for it. So I can understand people wanting more input into policy making, but here in America, you people have nothing to bitch about, because guess what? Typically, voting statistics show that under 50% of the people show up to even vote for candidates. What are you bitching about? You don't participate in it now. Why should you have control over legislation? You can't even read legislation. You don't even bother to look at legislation. I'm sorry, people, but you know what? Opinion polls are great, but when you look at the reality of how Americans consider participation in government being posting on social media, I'm sorry, that's not how it works.
So, well, Deb, you forget, remember the system's rigged and people, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I know.
Blah, blah, blah. I remember all of that. I do. I actually.
Right. Yeah.
Embarrassing. It's an embarrassing point.
I know. The discontent and disillusionment with the political status quo is tied to many factors, including economic performance, governmental competence. What does that mean? And and by the way, you're worried about governmental competence when who was the last person who was elected? I mean, for God's sake. Yeah. And the overall fairness of the political and economic system. So what does that mean?
If your solution is to overthrow the government to reinstall a dictator,
right?
I'm going to suggest to you that you're a bona fide idiot. And,
right.
I'm not taking that back. The other thing is participation is beyond voting too. Okay.
Yes.
And I'm not saying to you that we shouldn't be on the streets, because I really do believe, for example, you want Julian Assange to be saved. Streaming isn't going to do it.
Right.
Posting on Facebook isn't going to do it. You need to be on the streets, but you don't need to be on the streets violently. You know something? If you go back and take a look at the civil rights movement in the United States, was there some violence? Yeah, there was, mostly from people being lynched. They had millions of people on the streets marching peacefully. You can do this. This can be done in this country. The answer is not to bust down the Capitol doors and try to kill people. That's not going to accomplish anything.
Right. So
that'll hurt your rights more than anything.
Here's one article from Bloomberg, by the way. Biden's economic performance has proven unbeatable. Now,
and by the way, this also has been, not this particular article, but there have been other Business Insider that's mentioned the Biden administration.
Right. And these guys, these magazines are not all lefty either.
Right.
So
certainly the
now,
Wall Street Journal isn't.
Right. And we're talking, so first year president going back to Carter, close to matching the current White House occupants number 1 or number 2 ranking in each of key measures. We're talking about business performance, individual revenues, that kind of stuff in the middle of a pandemic. All right. And part of the reason why these economic indicators can be so high is because of regulation, is because the government's trying to stem the tide of some of the potentially devastating effects of a worldwide pandemic.
Right. And understand that everything that happens here, this is a global problem. You know, for example, in my store, a little hardware store, we spent the entire summer unable to get, and I know this seems like a trite little thing, but it's not. When people aren't traveling and they're at home and they're in their backyards, we could get big propane canisters. If you have a big propane grill, we couldn't get the little canisters for the little grills that you put on your tabletop. We still can't get those. We haven't had them for months. So there are products that you can't even get. We have paint that we can't access anymore. Okay.
Right.
This is everything that happens here happens as a part of a whole. Okay. This thing is a global pandemic.
Right. I want people to understand that this idea of individual freedom stems from a me, I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it mentality in many cases.
And I'm sorry, but that rugged individualism is exactly the kind of bullshit that we build into people here. We do not build the notion of community or caring in this country. All right. We do not emphasize it. And that's part of the problem.
Now, in the 1980s, I was a teenager, but I do remember some of the things that I'm going to be talking about. One of the things is the evolution of mandatory seatbelt laws, drawing fire as a violation of personal freedom. In the 80s, when this first started, very few people were wearing seatbelts.
Right.
It wasn't even thought of, really. So we have David Hollister. So he introduced a seatbelt bill in Michigan in the early 1980s. I actually think it was like 82, 83, something like that.
Right. That
leveled a fine for not buckling up. The state representative received hate mail, and tell me if you've heard this before, especially recently, comparing him to Hitler.
Right, like mask mandates, comparing them to the Holocaust. Who would that have been? Let me see. Could it be Marjorie Taylor Greene? Oh, I believe it was.
And no, it was not during Kwanzaa, which she doesn't believe is.
It's a fake religion. She's a fucking. Yeah. She needs to. Somebody needs to put a sock in her mouth.
So at the time, only 14% of Americans regularly wore seatbelts. And to give you a little bit of perspective, the state that has the lowest seatbelt participation percentage at this point is New Hampshire, which is the only state in the union right now that does not have mandatory seatbelt laws.
By the way, they're going to change their motto to live free or die to live free and die.
Right. So, but that state has what, 76%, and they're the lowest use. So seatbelts are really being used at this point. Resistance to the devices at the time was the norm, and I'm not going to really get too much into it, but I will say that it's very rare that I respect a Republican, and this is a Republican that I don't think is the norm. Wasn't the norm back then either.
No.
So her name was Elizabeth Dole. She was in Reagan's administration, and she worked to, so before any of those changes could be made, Ronald Reagan won the presidency on a promise of deregulation. So the seatbelt thing was a big sticking point, especially of the automotive industry. One of the first things that the Reagan administration did was to rescind the NHTSA rule requiring passive restraints. Insurance companies sued the administration, and the case went all the way to the Supreme Court. In a surprise ruling, the justices voted unanimously to block the Reagan administration and enforce the rule. So the Reagan administration was put in a bind. They were diehard deregulators, and the Supreme Court told them they had to regulate. There was no way they could justify saying that passive restraints didn't work. So Elizabeth Dole, then Secretary of the Department of Transportation, came up with what I think was an ingenious compromise, says this person, Michaud. So this is what she did. She issued a rule in 1985 that required automakers to install driver's side airbags in all new cars unless 2/3 of the states passed mandatory seatbelt laws by April 1st, 1989. Her rule was so politically adroit because it looked like a regulation, but it really was a gift to the auto industries. Cars already had seatbelts, so all Detroit had to do was convince states to pass mandatory seatbelt laws, and it was off the hook for installing airbags. So everybody got what they wanted.
Right.
But here is something that I want to impress upon people. People are worried about money, saving money, all of that. Seatbelts save lives. They do. They have. They save labor hours, costs on labor. If somebody gets in an accident, instead of being out for months at work, they're out for only a couple of weeks in some cases. You save lives so that the breadwinner is still around. Your father's still around, mother, whatever. So there is a positive effect to this. Medical bills, the whole thing. Yep. Insurance, all of it.
Yep. By the way, one of the bonuses you had, if you I know, at least I don't think it's here anymore now, but if you, I forget how it worked in Massachusetts, you could save money on your insurance somehow. I don't remember what the exact thing was. It was when I was young too, so I can't, I'll look it, I'll see if I can dig it up and find it. But there was a way to save money on your insurance as well. And I'll have to look that one up because I know only about Massachusetts. I don't know if they were doing it everywhere.
Right. Okay, so I looked up a couple other things. First drunk driving arrest. Anybody think of it? I probably already showed it.
Nope.
September 10th, 1897. 25-year-old London taxi driver named George Smith becomes the first person ever arrested for drunk driving after slamming his cab into a building.
That's a dead giveaway.
Fine 25 shillings. Okay, in the United States, We had laws against operating the motor vehicle while under the influence. Now it says alcohol went into effect 1910. So this is yes, and we have a drunkometer, which is basically a breathalyzer.
Right.
There's ways to measure it. One thing that Deb and I did take a look at before we got on camera was, is there a way to measure whether or not someone is on the under the influence of cannabis? It's difficult, to say the least.
Yeah, so in Massachusetts, it's totally legal. Recreational, medical, the whole 9 yards. And I can tell you that I'm a 40-year pot smoker. Okay, so there is right now in Massachusetts, it's very subjective, and it's the only way it can be, because there is no device right now available to measure, what is an unsafe level of THC in your bloodstream. Everybody reacts differently with pot. Okay. I personally, I can smoke till my eyes bleed. I mean, it's
Right.
I don't smoke anymore, by the way, because, contrary to popular opinion, it's not really good for your lungs anyway, no matter what anyone tells you. So I stopped smoking, but I do use THC tinctures. I do use gummies. Right now, will I never smoke again? Probably. I can't really say that, but I'm not, and I haven't for almost a year now, since I got COVID.
Right.
Stopped when I got COVID in February of 2021. So right now, if you get stopped in Massachusetts, everything is based on what policeman stops you, because all he's going to be able to do is observe the way you act. That's really all he can do. But here's a tip. If you're riding around in your car and you're smoking pot and you get pulled over for any reason and you roll your window down and there's smoke flowing out your window, you probably should consider yourself in trouble. Because you shouldn't be. I mean, you're not going to ride around with a bottle open and drink and get away with it. You're certainly not going to get away with smoking pot in your car. I can tell you.
Also, if you're driving 10 miles an hour in a 65-mile-an-hour zone,
or 75 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, depending depending upon what you're listening to on the radio. If you're listening to, if you're stoned and you're listening to Tom Petty's "Running Down a Dream," chances are you're going pretty fast. So.
Right. Or, driving 15 miles an hour is good to be king. I mean, I can see that too. But this is part of my point. I mean, when you're doing the right thing in terms of safety, it should save you some money, or it should save the state some money, and drive down the cost of insurance. Wearing your seatbelt could save billions. So we're talking, this was in 2006. Okay, this is from ABC News. So it was originally from May 9th, 2002. A new federal study looked at the staggering costs of car crashes, found that they're costing $230 billion a year. So 820 for every one man, woman, and child in the U.S. In 2000, 41,821 people died in U.S. traffic accidents, while 5.3 million people were injured. Now, we're also talking about driving under the influence. We're also talking about running stoplights, running stop signs, speeding, not paying attention, distracted driving, all of that. Okay, so talk a little bit.
Texting while driving?
Yep, texting. Yep. So the study by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration found accidents in 2000 led to $80 billion in lost productivity, $59 billion in property damage, $33 billion in medical costs, and $26 billion in cost associated with travel delays. Some of these would be diminished if you had the medical cost could be diminished if you had your seatbelt on, as opposed to not.
Right. And by the way, just so you understand, the costs for rising insurance and all of that shit isn't just paid by those who break the law. We all pay that.
Yep. So here's
we all pay for increased medical bills when you refuse to get a vaccine. You know, we all pay that. We all pay the price for that.
Here's the next one. And I'm sure I'm going to get some grief if people watch this who are smokers. This is just a timeline, and these are facts that have come out. The CDC has a lot of facts about smoking, and they try to curb smoking in the United States. And there are going to be some reasons. 1954, Richard Dahl and Bradford Hill, they published an article in the British Medical Journal confirming the link between smoking and lung cancer. And if you think about it, the marketing or the warning label doesn't happen until the 60s. The tobacco industry knew about this for over a decade. Just so you know.
Yeah.
So we have First Surgeon General's report on smoking is published. It recognized the proven link between smoking and lung cancer. This was 1964. The British Medical Journal came out 1954. So 1966 was when they started having the health warnings on cigarettes. Then you had the Virginia Slims. You've come a long way, baby.
Yeah, you sure have. Now
Yeah.
You die like the men.
Yep, exactly. 1975, that's when you have smoking areas, start to have smoking areas. It's Minnesota.
Minnesota, leading the way. That would never fucking happen now. They're all a bunch of cranks. Just like Michigan, the guy in Michigan that introduced the seatbelt law. That would never happen now. Not in those states.
Right. Well, especially Michigan, seatbelts.
Right. Now you have Garrett Soldano running in Michigan.
Right.
A real crackhead.
So we had nicotine gum in 1984. So in the late 80s, that's when you started to see a push to ban smoking on airplanes. 1989, it was completely gone.
And by the way, I have to just say this. These were my years of working in corporate America, and I used to make a lot of trips to Europe.
Right.
I used to smoke on planes. I can't even imagine that now. I mean, I can't even. I could just think about flying on a flying germ bomb in the middle of this pandemic is enough.
Right.
I'll never fly again. I can promise you. If I can't fucking drive, I'm not going. But I made many flights to Europe during the 70s and 80s, and I can't even imagine being stuck in a plane with everybody around me smoking now. And I was
often spitting,
right,
all over the place.
Yep.
So that was actually, and you always say, "Oh, what did governmental officials do?" Lautenberg has been gone for a while, but Dick Durbin is. I don't know how long he's been, had his office, but this was legislation that was put in place, and it was the right thing to do.
It was.
So
because, nobody should be, honestly, in all fairness, no one should be stuck on a plane. And, you're not getting clean air. You're getting recirculated air. Stuck on a plane, having to breathe that shit in, and in a restaurant.
Right.
Honestly, if you can't make it through an hour and a half dinner without having a cigarette and, inconveniencing everybody around you, then you've got a problem.
Not for nothing, people just walk outside and do it.
Just go outside and have a cigarette if you want one. What's the big fucking deal? I don't get it.
So, eliminating smoking in bars in 1998. That happens in California. So it continues. Let's see. U.S. Supreme Court 5-4 decision. U.S. Food and Drug Administration cannot assert authority over tobacco products without giving power to do so by Congress. So then efforts turn to Congress to pass legislation. And it's been a long fight over a long period of time, including, by the way, vape pens and all of that kind of stuff too. I believe the vape laws have recently come into effect. So,
by the way, vaping isn't any better for you than smoking. In fact, I believe now they're looking at, I don't know if they've started it yet, regulating. One of the big problems is you have kids now who think vaping is safer, and it's made attractive with flavors.
Right.
That's what happens. And actually, it still has nicotine in it. Your kids are still becoming addicted to nicotine. And what's happening is, for kids, it's helping them move to cigarettes.
Yep.
And that was supposedly not the intent.
Now, one of the things that the CDC has moved towards is this movement called Tobacco 21. The thinking is that most kids, by the age of 21, they've already started, if they're going to start. So it's a way to keep people from starting in the first place. And by the way, if you're talking about saving money, smoking is a highly, highly expensive habit. Depending on where you're at. I mean, in New York, on Long Island, a carton of cigarettes is $120 ish, $125, $126 at this point. So it's a really, really expensive habit, especially if you smoke a pack, 2 packs a day. Just saying. So,
because they're about what, when you buy them individually, how much are they now?
10, 12, something like that.
I when I was smoking, when I stopped, I think I was paying. I mean, I stopped, and then I went back to it, and then I stopped again. I went back to it for a couple of years. I think when I was back smoking again, I went back to it. I never smoked in a plane, and I never smoked anywhere else like that again. I never did. I think I was paying like $6 or $7, so it's really gone up since then.
Right. Now, anybody who smokes knows that cigarettes are addictive, and you're not going to, just by saying you can't do it, people aren't going to not do it anymore. This was in 2014. Students speak out against smoking ban during a protest at Tate Plaza in a Georgia college. Basically, they just lit up for 3 hours to protest. And here, word for word, the National Smokers Alliance. Now, the National Smokers Alliance is R.J. Reynolds. Okay, it's an industry advocacy group or whatever. It's the industry.
Right.
The
And
flame
how
of
about this?
freedom.
You're going to equate that with freedom.
Yep.
You're not being held, hostage by being addicted to cigarettes. You're exercising your freedom.
Right.
Just like all you people who hate capitalism, but you're equating your freedom during this pandemic as being able to get on a cruise ship or get on an airline. Okay.
Right.
You don't hate capitalism. It's a bunch of shit.
One of the worst examples of someone exercising their freedom and really stomping on someone else's freedom that I've ever had. I was in an elevator. I believe it may have even been around a parking garage or a airport. I can't remember, but I know I was in Chicago, and there was a gentleman smoking a cigar with a mother with a child in a wheelchair, in a wheelchair with an oxygen tank. The mother asked the man to take, to please put it out, at least for now. And he basically said to screw off.
Gotta love it.
Just saying.
Let's not, mention the fact that he could have blown everybody in the fucking elevator, including himself, up. Okay?
Right.
Just so you know.
It has an active oxygen tank.
Right.
Moron. So.
Freedom fighting moron. There's a difference.
Right.
He's not just any moron. He's a special kind of moron.
So let's not even talk about the effects of adults. That's one thing. Health effects in infants and children of secondhand smoke. Smoking during pregnancy results in more than 1,000 infant deaths annually. Infants exposed to secondhand smoke after birth, higher risk of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, because it interferes with their breathing. And infants who die from SIDS have higher concentrations of nicotine in their lungs and a higher level of cotinine than infants who die from other causes. Now, exposure to secondhand smoke causes multiple health problems in infants and young children, including ear infections, respiratory symptoms, acute lower respiratory infections such as bronchitis. Now, if I remember with the adults, it was heart disease. So, what I want people to understand too. This is from the CDC, secondhand smoke facts. Secondhand smoke is a combination of smoke from the burning end of a cigarette and the smoke breathed out by smokers. Secondhand smoke contains more than 7,000 chemicals, of which hundreds are toxic and about 70 can cause cancer.
And you're all worried about getting the vaccine, are you? I can't even. I just can't. Or Eric Clapton, he's worried about getting the vaccine after spending 20 years pumping heroin into his veins. Please spare me.
Now, they talk about cost effectiveness of tobacco use and interventions. Again, it helps prevent disease. It also helps with reducing insurance costs. So it reviews health interventions to determine which ones work and offer good value. Review of tobacco interventions found that comprehensive tobacco control programs can save money because the amount saved from reductions in smoking-related healthcare costs can be higher than the cost of adopting the programs. So,
by the way, let me just say one thing here, but one of the many places you used to be able to smoke openly was in a hospital. I can't even imagine that, but
right.
I was thinking about this as I was watching Jaws last night, and I'm watching the mayor of Amity after a kid gets hurt in a shock attack. I'm watching the mayor of Amity walking around the hospital corridor smoking a butt. It happened in the real world. That wasn't just in the movies.
I don't know. I haven't seen it, I haven't actually had to go to a hospital recently, but I know that I used to go there and there would be that little tarp, like plastic tarp thing, and like 8 freaking nurses would be under there huddled, freaking smoking a cigarette.
I now believe actually that I now believe, I know in Boston, in several locations, and not just hospitals, you can't even smoke within 20 feet of the building. You literally have to move away. You can't be near the
Makes sense. Yep. Well, especially now with COVID.
Right.
This is hospitality workers' health. These are statistics saying that when they don't smoke at work, the health increases. Okay. Now I understand people who don't have a cigarette, who are addicted, they get
hospitable, but
no. But just saying, these are the statistics. Now, how changing tobacco laws can save thousands of lives. I do know who this individual is. Okay, this is from Forbes. This is April of 2019, and this is Bill Frist. He happens to be a doctor. He also happened to be a congressperson. Now, he is claiming that there are more deaths from smoking than a lot of different things combined. AIDS, car crashes, that kind of stuff. So, but $170 billion in healthcare costs annually due to smoking. This is about e-cigarettes. You guys want to take a look at that? And now we're going to move to.
And now they're not safe. By the way, they're not really safer. Okay?
No, they're not. They're not.
That's an outright lie.
I don't know. Did they ever really market that as a safer, and then they had to change their marketing?
I believe they did.
Okay, I would think, yeah.
I believe they did.
So I don't like traffic cameras. I don't. But is it a big deal that traffic cameras exist? You know what? I used to think that, this is another example of Big Brother, blah, blah, blah. But in all honesty, the more traffic cameras you have out there, the less you have to have police officers patrolling, and the more that they can do other things. My wife, she fell. Okay, so cops were able to come over and help. If someone has to call for an ambulance service and police have to come to the house, you don't have to wait for them to be able to come over. There are reasons why you would do this. Some of the arguments against it is the biggest one that I think is a bunch of hooey is, oh, well, maybe the camera will look inside of other people's apartments or houses, and they'll, it's a big, they're not looking at other people's houses. They're looking at the car.
Right.
Okay.
By the way, on the Massachusetts highway system, where you have toll booths, they have cameras there. So if you don't have a transponder, they can bill you.
Right.
That's what they're using it for.
The bottom line is that people get upset that they got caught. Now, one of the things that, it's not really making people safer. It's, first off, it creates more accidents because people slow down and then the person behind them crashes into them. I don't know. There might be something to that, maybe, but the other criticism is that it doesn't create safer roads. All it does is create more revenue. Well, if you're doing the right thing, and I know people hate this argument, it's like, oh, he's falling into the surveillance state thing. If you're driving on a public road and not running through a red light and not making illegal turns, they're not going to bill you.
Right.
And if they do, you can get a lawyer.
Right. And by the way, that notion that they create more accidents, I'm not so sure about that. I'm on the road every day. Every road I go on to get to my job has traffic cameras on it. Every single one. I have a lot of lights on the way to work. I go the back way. I don't have to get on the highway to get to my job.
Right.
I don't see any of that nonsense.
If you have whatever, your MapQuest or whatever in your phone, or your traffic, whatever, they are going to tell you that the light is, or that the traffic camera's there. They're going to say traffic camera ahead. Now, is it possible that you're going to slow down and the person behind you doesn't have that technology? Maybe.
Look,
but
let me just
how?
put it to you this way.
Yeah.
I've seen more people slam into the people in front of them when they think the person in front of them is going to run the red light.
Right.
That's what I see. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I see.
And it's not going to, it doesn't matter.
Your hands in Massachusetts if you slow down for a yellow light, basically.
People are trying to blow through the light and you stop it ahead of them. Yeah. All right. So now we are going to transition to
that magic word.
COVID.
I was thinking transition. Don't get anyone upset on the right by that word. We're not asking you to transition. Don't worry about it.
No. The Omicron variant is expected to dent global economy in early 2022. Of course it is. People are going to start getting sick. You're going to have fewer people able to work, at least for a while.
In New York, I believe they have 3 medical centers where they don't have enough medical people to work.
Right.
They got it.
And on top, here is the mentality that I am hearing in my state of New York and on Long Island. Well, we only have to be out for 5 days this time. And on top of that, you don't really feel that bad. So it's kind of like a vacation.
You get to be out for 5 days if you are asymptomatic.
Right.
It is 10 days if you have symptoms.
Right. Oh, what am I going to get a vaccine for if I can be, this is what I'm talking about.
It is.
So this is how bad it is, okay? Libertarians are supporting vaccine mandates, so it's bad. Just saying. I'm just
business. That's why.
Yeah.
And they know that's one of the ways to do it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You want to get past this fucking thing? I don't care what anybody on the right is telling you. I don't care. I hate the word truthers. You know what? There are so many fucking truthers out there that don't know what the word truth actually means.
Right.
But it's alarming. I don't care what the truthers tell you. The way you get past the pandemic, vaccines, masks, distancing. End of story. This is all supported by scientific facts and not just with COVID.
So, all I have heard if the past 2 or 3 years, Soros is funding this, the Koch brothers are funding this, blah, blah, blah is funding this. Guess who's funding the anti-vax movement? Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. So this is they're funding
the anti-lockdown movement too.
Yeah.
There's 2 things that they fund.
This is an interview with a reporter. This is Democracy Now! So, but there is another one. Center for Media and Democracy. Okay. This is Walker Bragman and Alex Koch. This is very recent, December 22nd, 2021. How the Koch network hijacked the war on COVID. So we're talking about the Omicron variant. There was a small Michigan college called Hillside announced it was launching an Academy for Science and Freedom to educate the American people about the free exchange of scientific ideas and the proper relationship between freedom and science in the pursuit of truth.
This is all you need to know. Hillsdale is a conservative Christian institution with ties to the Trump administration.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know.
So,
and by the way, there has been an effort on the right-wing side all across this country. They have spent their time rolling back
right.
Governor's ability to use their emergency powers to combat this thing. By the way, let me just say this. Gretchen Whitmer.
Yeah.
Now with the rates going up in Michigan, we have Garrett Soldano out there on I don't even know how he's got a fucking YouTube account anymore. This guy basically tried to sell everybody juice for $75 a pop to own the virus. But he's also running for governor against Gretchen Whitmer. And now he's saying that she's missing in action on the COVID spike. Well, Garrett Soldano led the charge to have her emergency powers overturned, and he did have them overturned. So he can actually shut the fuck up.
Now, what I was going to ask you, Deb, do the names sound familiar? I know they're linked to Trump, but I haven't heard of these people before. Scott Atlas.
I've heard his name. The other two guys I don't know.
Okay.
But basically, that's again, they're using dark money to fund the attack on public health, and that's what they've done in Michigan.
Okay.
There's several states that have overturned the governor's ability to use executive powers or emergency powers to combat this thing, and now they're bitching about it. Okay, now they're out there saying, "Well, she's not doing anything." Well, she can't do anything because you've taken that power away.
Now, Deb suggested that I put these guys in. We've talked about them before. It's the Medical Freedom Super PAC. Okay, again, we're talking about medical freedom in terms of truth and blah. And,
nobody's medical freedom is being taken away. You know what? That's a crock of shit. But all you need to do, you can read right here. Our vision. No, move it up a little bit.
Okay. Yep.
Vision. This is all you need to know. Glorifying God by executing our mission with excellence, resulting in America with the world's top-ranked health system and the healthiest people on earth. Well, you ain't going to do that if you're going to fight every fucking COVID measure on the planet. And by the way, the majority of the people here who are talking trash against vaccines also have websites where they will sell you supplements to cure COVID. Okay, they're all in this group. Okay, and by the way, this group is highly right wing, and RFK Jr. takes charity money from them. So he's another one, but we're not going to talk about him tonight. We're going to talk about him on a different day.
Right. So two things I want to say. Originally, I was going to do more of a how we can become more involved in our local community and all that stuff. And in all honesty, you guys can figure that out. Honestly, if there are local activist groups or local civics organizations or whatever you are, interested in, library group, whatever it is, you can do that. But here's what I have noticed. Actually, this is my neighborhood. Okay, the West Babylon Main Street organization. So it's right around where I'm at. I look at some of these programs, and they are excellent programs. They help a lot of people. Adult Protective Services, Parents of Murdered Children, Poison Control Center, Al-Anon Family Group, Substance Abuse Hotline, Suffolk County Coalition Against Domestic Violence, Alcoholics Anonymous, Brighter Tomorrows, which is an emergency shelter and support services to domestic violence victims, the SPCA, Child Protective Services, and so forth and so on. Financial exploitation of the elderly, and the one that really kind of set me on to this to show you guys. Give Back a Smile program. Now, this is a very good program for people who have been women who have been abused. Provides free consultation and dental treatment to restore the smiles of domestic violence survivors. So these are basically wives and girlfriends who have had their teeth knocked out by their scumbag partners.
Right.
Okay. Whether it be husbands, wives, whatever it is, scumbags. All of this, none of this should have to be available.
Right.
The prevention of cruelty to animals. Really, why? Why do you have to be cruel to animals?
Look, let me just say this, okay?
Yeah.
Again, what you need to understand is that you don't live on an island, right? You live in a country with 335 million people. You live in a community, okay? When I was living in my house, okay, I could turn my radio up and my music up as loud as I wanted within reason because there were people next door. I live in a condo now, okay? I don't do that anymore. There are things that you do. You need to be considerate of other people. You don't have the right to spread your infection, okay? You just don't have that constitutional right. That's not written into the Constitution. It's a small example, but I've used it before. We had norovirus go through Stoneham High, something unbelievable. Everybody in the house got it, but me and my child. One of my children got it, and she got it because the rule here in the state of Massachusetts is if you have a stomach virus, you have to be free from vomiting for 24 solid hours before you can return to school. They had a football player who was so sick, but he could not be sent home unless the coach said it was okay. Not the nurse, the fucking coach. So what did they do? They put him in history class with a bucket next to his desk. You know what? My daughter got stomach virus 2 days later. You know what? That's not fucking okay. So I personally told my daughter, next time they do that, you have my permission to walk out. And if they have a problem with that, they have my cell phone number. You know what? That's absolutely patently ridiculous. And you know what? We have that on a large scale with COVID, okay? If you don't want to wear a mask, you don't want to get vaccinated, put a mask in your ugly face, okay? Right? You don't want to wear a mask, then you stay home. It's the way it works.
Now, here's my last slide, okay? And we've talked about all this, and we've talked about the ugliness. There was an article from NPR, okay? This is from December. We're talking about kind of we want to be better and, the New Year's resolution stuff. 5 tips on being a kinder neighbor and fostering a sense of community. Yeah. Learn your neighbor, who your neighbors are, their names, get a general sense of who they are. Just be courteous. Don't drive, 75 miles an hour down the road when you know they have kids. And just be on the lookout for stuff or whatever. And by the way, all the stuff that Deb and I have talked about for the past hour and a half, you do that too. But am I pessimistic a lot of times when I see stories about child abuse, animal abuse, and all of that stuff. Yeah, I just sometimes I just shake my head and say, I understand that there are good people out there, but then you look at that and you say,
Look,
this is why we have laws, by the way. This is why we have laws. This is why the government gets involved
let me
to
just say-
protect the public.
Right. Let me just say this. The other thing that, became a story, and I'm still following it, is
Yeah.
all these people who were, oh, woe is me, I'm locked down, I need a pet.
Right.
People run out and buy dogs and cats, and now what's happening? They're dumping them all off at shelters. It's
Yeah.
the instant gratification, the I mean my fucking attitude. You know what? It's sickening. It really is.
What was that story? Like, God knows how many, like 75 or 80 parakeets or something crazy.
Oh, no.
What happened?
Oh, no. So
Oh, God.
there was a story about this woman who was an animal hoarder. All right.
Right.
And she decided to breed parakeets so she could have more.
Right.
And it wound up that her son dropped off 500 fucking parakeets to a shelter. What the fuck is wrong with people?
Right.
That's all birds do is breed, eat and breed. That's what they do. Who thought that was a good idea? I don't know. People are just, to me,
Right.
beyond the pale. All right. You got 2 parakeets. You don't need 500 parakeets, especially when you have a house full of fucking cats and dogs too. It's maddening. All of this is maddening.
Right.
People just don't get. Listen, if you want to live the way you want to live and not give a shit about everybody else, I hear Pedo Island is up for sale now that Jeffrey Epstein's dead. Maybe you want to go live there by yourself.
Right.
So that's it. I got nothing more. I got nothing. Are you done?
Be nice. Hold on one second. Let me stop sharing. I mean, that kind of just be considerate of your neighbors, just a little bit. And yes, I understand you want to be your own person and have your own rights. And by the way, I do have to say, on January 1st, midnight, I made the mistake of watching some of the festivities or whatever. Miley Cyrus singing with her underwear on or whatever it was. We can't stop. We can sing what we want. We can do what we want. We can be with who we want. Yeah, that's fine. But you know what? You have to also be considerate too and not have 500 drooling millennials spitting all over each other and drinking and spilling their drinks all over each other. We can't stop until we get freaking COVID. Right. So I'm just saying that is the mindset. I don't care. You want to be with a guy, great. You want to be with a girl, that's fine. I don't care. But you know what? Just be considerate of other people when you're in public, and you don't. The New Year's stuff, I knew it was going to set me off. Well, the New York City stuff, I knew it was going to set me off. I knew it.
So let me just say this in closing.
Yeah.
No one's stopping you, right? Everybody's back on their cruise ships now. Okay.
Correct.
The CDC is not stopping you from doing anything. All right. What the CDC is recommending is that you don't take a cruise right now. And why is that? Because right now there are over 5,000 infections from 21 cruise ships. People need to understand what this is that we're fighting here. And by the way, all of these anti-vaxxers who go on the air and say, well, I'm never getting this vaccine and I got COVID and the worst is behind me. That's your experience with COVID. Okay. That's right. Not everyone else's experience with COVID. There are 850,000 people dead here now who didn't have that fortunate an experience. Okay. That was not my experience with COVID. It took me literally 9 weeks to get back to work. Okay. And I still have problems from it. I don't want it again. And you know what? You do have individual rights. We all do, but we all have a responsibility to each other as citizens as well. Whether you want to accept that or not, that is a fact. So I will close this right the fuck here.
One more thing real quick. Think about how badly you're going to feel if someone criticizes you or yells at you for doing your job. Leave out. I'm gonna evoke a meme. Leave Fauci alone.
Right.
He's doing his job. He's doing his job.
And by the way, he's been doing this job. He graduated from college in 1966. He started working in NIH, the CDC, in 1968. And
Right.
he's never left. He has literally, he is the most knowledgeable and influential infectious disease expert in the world. He is the author of over 1,300 articles. Other nations call on him to help. He is doing his job. All right. The nurses in states that they're being spit on, doctors are being abused. Airline people are being abused for requiring people to put masks on an airplane. Who thinks it's a good idea to be on a fucking flying germ bomb without a mask on? All right, you're an idiot. Okay, these people are doing their jobs. When this first hit, I was working at ACE and we had a mask mandate. I had someone spit in my face because I told them they couldn't come in without a mask. You know what? That's not okay. Just so you understand. All right, gang, I'm shutting this down now because I could go on for fucking ever.
Leave Fauci alone. All right.
Oh, almighty. I'll talk to you later.